First of all, the economy is doing okay. If President Obama had a third term, the next couple of years would be better than the last couple of years. So there's inertia going forward. Second, I do think the deregulation piece or the unwinding of some of the executive orders, while possibly being very damaging in the long run, in the environment, labor, will boost the economy in the short run. I think that is the single biggest driving force behind business optimism, not the stimulus. This is a supply side effect. It'll last for a while. Second, even though President Obama wanted to do infrastructure, but he couldn't get it through the Republican Congress, when Donald Trump presents similar things, he'll get it done. And that's going to give a stimulus, not next year, not this year, but in 2018. The tax cut, I think, is a crazy idea. I think the Bush tax cuts were a big mistake. They created more inequality. They raised the budget deficit. They made the things more complicated. Doing the income tax cut anyway, I don't really understand. The corporate tax change probably makes sense, even if it costs some money in the deficit, because our corporate tax isn't very sensible. A lot of economists say growth will be 0 or 1% because, he's just going to start doing erratic things right away. And I tend to think that's a little overblown as a short run thing. If we're going 8 years with this, something's going to happen. But where I'm being optimistic is that the more destructive potential doesn't get front loaded. Keeping manufacturing jobs in the US is nonsense. It's a little bit like saying we're going to have agricultural jobs. Again, we used to have half of people in agriculture. Technological change, it gradually decreased. You can, stem the bleeding a bit, but even if we stop trade with Asia, we're not going to do that completely. Technology is going to replace a lot of the workers anyway, just as it did in agriculture. No, and the trade policy is very dangerous, very dangerous. The whole idea of upsetting the world order, the Trump administration seems to believe we could win a trade war with China. We won't. I hope that it's rhetoric and he strikes a deal. And the stuff about Mexico is really ridiculous. I think inflation by 2018 will even likely get to 3%, even though I think the Fed, as Janet Yellen said recently, is probably going to hike more than people think. But I think inflation is going to go up. I think the risk premium is going to go up. People are going to start seeing that. And I think growth will be good. I think growth will be more on the order of hitting 3% as we get into 2018. Of course, it could be lower, but it also could be higher. All in all, I do think we'll have a good couple of years. After that, I don't know. And I'm being very optimistic about his not creating a trade mess, not tweeting out some crazy policy that disrupts everything in the meantime. But yeah, I think the baseline is that growth will be pretty good for a couple of years, and then who knows?